Hello, today we will discuss how to migrate from MySQL to MariaDB. A little bit about myself. I'm MySQL support engineer with more than 10 years experience. Currently I work in Percona, and in Percona we support all MySQL flavors. Its first is Percona software for MySQL, and upstream MySQL Oracle's version and MariaDB. So I work with customers who use all these products. I am author of book MySQL Troubleshooting. I have a couple of hobby projects on GitHub. I am a frequent speaker on various conferences. And here is our topics. These are topics which we will discuss today. And a little bit about MariaDB. MariaDB started as a fork of MySQL, and then it became independent product with many unique features. And at the same time, since it started as a fork, it started as fully compatible fork with MySQL. Its many important improvements are backported from MySQL. Before it started as a fork, but now improvements get imported, so these are different code base, and you need to understand this when migrate, especially from latest versions of MySQL to latest versions to MariaDB. And first part of migration is initial setup. So we are taking our existing data, which was used at MySQL, and moving to MariaDB. And what happens? First, check version compatibility. For drop-in replacement, that means you can just take data dir, and without making any dump and any just stop any dump, you can start MariaDB on it, and this work for this matrix. Like for latest versions of MariaDB could be started on data dir created in 5.7 directory, but MySQL version 8.0 is different. Because in this version MySQL introduced new data dictionary and removed table definition files with extension FRM, and therefore since MariaDB doesn't implement this feature, it cannot just start on data dir of version 8.0. If you are migrating from version 8.0, you have to perform SQL dump and restore. So how to do drop-in replacement? So first, check version compatibility. If versions are compatible, stop MySQL server. Then install MariaDB server. Install MariaDB, and then point MariaDB to MySQL data directory, for example, in the configuration file. Then start MariaDB, and this is important part. Run a MariaDB upgrade. And if you are using old versions of MariaDB, you can run MySQL upgrade. But in 10.5, MySQL versions of such utilities, they left there just aliases for new MariaDB utilities. So just run MariaDB upgrade. And here is why. This is example of data directory taken from version 5.7. And you see most of the tables use MySum storage engine. We have data file with extension MYD, and some use InnoDB storage engine with extension IBD, especially pay attention for those which are underlined in orange color, because for MariaDB it converts most of the tables to area storage engine with different extension MyAD, and also it converts some InnoDB, not only MySum tables, but also converts some InnoDB tables to area storage engine, but not all. Like for example, you may have like engine cost is using InnoDB storage engine. At the same time, MariaDB adds additional tables like column stats. This is not full output, this is not full content of data directory, but still you have idea. So like if you don't don't run MariaDB upgrade, this conversion won't happen, and MariaDB at best will return errors, and it would not be able to use some features like column states, its independent table statistics. So like once you install it, like everything runs fine. So what you need to pay attention? You need to pay attention for difference between MySQL and MariaDB. First, it's specific MariaDB features. It's like storage engine, SQL statements, options, something else. They do not exist in MySQL. You didn't use them in MySQL. So if you need, it's probably the reason why you moved to MariaDB. So just use them. So there is nothing to discuss about. Another option is specific MySQL features. It's features which exist in MySQL but do not exist in MariaDB. It's either SQL statements or some plugins. They are missed, and there is nothing to do about it. So just just don't use them. But there are features which present in both products. But they work differently, or maybe like have same functionality but a little bit different syntax. And these are our focus today, because this is actually what you would probably would like to continue using, but you would use them differently in MariaDB. And first part, what we are doing when we connect to MariaDB server, we authenticate. So first, let's discuss what is the difference between authentication for MySQL and for MariaDB. First, the initial setup, in that case, like if you are not operating, like just creating new server, MySQL deprecated MySQL install DB utility and removed it version 8.0 in options to use MySQL-D and option initialize. But MariaDB didn't deprecate MySQL install DB and still uses it. And actually there is nothing wrong, it's nothing incompatible with it. It's just like just use this utility, and they MySQL deinitialize and MySQL install DB, we are doing the same thing. Both servers, both products support authentication plugins, so you can decide how you want your users to be authenticated. But they are different in both products. In orange colors, color I highlight what is exist in both products. This is native MySQL authentication plugin, and this is socket peer credential plugin. MySQL supports default SHA-256 or caching SHA-256, which is default in 8.0. It supports clear text plugin, which is allows client to, which tells client to don't hash a password, and just like send them assist to the server. And also it has no login a plugin, which is could be used, for example, for storage procedures. Then it doesn't allow this user to log in. It just can be used like for storage procedures or for events. These are not supported by MariaDB. MariaDB instead supports MySQL native password. MySQL old password actually supported by MySQL up to version 5.7 included. Its old password, which is used prior version 4.1, is deprecated and used only for when you upgrade to very old versions. MariaDB supports SHA-256 on the client side only, so it can connect to MySQL servers, but it doesn't support this plugin at the server side. Instead, it supports this plugin for secure connections, and this is for Kerberos. It supports PAM plugin, which is Percona server also has open source version of PAM plugin, and MySQL has commercial version of PAM plugin. MariaDB supports also named pipe as Unix socket, so you can connect from Unix sockets on Linux. User management SQL, like create user, alter user, etc., is the same as there is nothing changed, so you can just use it as use it in MySQL. But MariaDB supports multiple plugins per account, which MySQL doesn't, so this is kind of extension and kind of advantage. Password validation, they work similarly, but these use different underlying software. MySQL uses in version 8.0 validate password component, And before it used validate password plugin, which is now deprecated, but it both regulated by the same options. So these are like password length, there is dictionary file, it should be path to this dictionary file. It's count of numbers, count of mixed case characters, count of special characters, and policy it's could be from it's like it's medium, it could be like strict or not strict. It's you can specify it. MariaDB supports two plugins, and one is simple password checks, which checks just length of the password and checks like same case letters, digits. So it works similar to MySQL, but it has different options. It has different internal implementation. And another option is crack-lib password check, which has only option it's path to the dictionary. Again, it's like it's similar to MySQL, but it's a little bit different in underline. But you can easily adopt your password validation policies when you migrate. Password expiration works the same way, so you can just set up like expire password as it's absolutely same syntax. Now for roles, roles is again the syntax is same, but it has different storage and it has different information about where you can find information about your roles. MySQL has 6 tables which show details about roles, and store roles definitions and tables user inside MySQL database, and also MySQL role edges which connect role with a user. In case of MariaDB, you can find information about your roles again in information schema, but it has less number of tables, just 2 tables, applicable roles and enabled roles. And also they stored in MySQL database, but it's same in user table, but roles mapping is in another table called roles mapping. And what is the difference? Its difference is that's when you create a role in MySQL, when you grant some role to another user, this role is not available for the grantor. Like if you are like kind of root user and you create some role, it's not in the grant to user like Sveta. This role would not be applicable for the root user, but for MariaDB, role automatically available for the grantor, so which we can see in the previous slide. So it's like same my role, it goes to the root user who has admin option and can do something with this role, grant or revoke it. And this is also applicable to user Sveta, which doesn't have admin option and cannot administrate this role. Another like common thing which we are setting up when we migrate is replication. It's practically for my all my support experience, I saw maybe 1 or 2 installations which didn't use replication. So this is kind of something which very basic and very important to do. Replication without global transactional identifiers, it's compatible. It's can work any way around, but again, this is not something which is recommended by MariaDB, but this is which I tested and I see it's like kind of works. But what you should pay attention for. First is data types are compatible. So like in case if it's some data type exists in MariaDB, but do not exist on MySQL or vice versa, you cannot use row-based replication. Version 8.0 adds additional complications, especially character sets, and we will discuss character sets later. And it's probably could be not trivial to create replication between 8.0 and MariaDB. For GTID, both products support GTIDs, but implementation is different. And MariaDB understands MySQL GTIDs, but MySQL does not understands MariaDB GTIDs. So only replication when MySQL is source is possible, but when MariaDB source is not possible. So like only replication from MySQL to MariaDB if you are using GTIDs is possible. For multi-threaded replications, it's supported again by both products, but concurrency control is different. For MySQL, it has option slave parallel workers. It's number of SQL threads which can run statements in parallel. It has parallel type, either database or kind of automatical logical clock. It also has binlogged transaction dependency tracking variable, which also could be used for better management of parallelization of multi-threaded replication. In MySQL, in MariaDB, is options are different. It's called number of threads called slave parallel threads. Then for domain is for multi-source replication. And what is important is parallel mode is has not like kind of database or logical clock or write set. It has either optimistic or conservative or aggressive, minimal or none. So that means like none, it means there is no parallel mode. Conservative, it means it's most safe option, and like aggressive is less safe but most performant option. So you have probably to study and to find difference and to find which is the best for your application. Multi-source replication, it's again supported by both products, but it has slight difference of administrative statements. Like for MySQL, it's change master to master host source 1 for channel source 1, and in MariaDB, change master source 1 to master host source 1. Slave status for MySQL is default show slave status is for all channels, and if you want to see slave status just for single channel, you have to specify it. And in case if you it also has performance schema, so you can also use this statement to query performance schema on slave status. For MariaDB, default is default connection, so it's default source. And if you want to see show slave status for all sources, you need to use show all slave status. So that's quite different, but otherwise it's works pretty similar. SQL differences. So like what is like mostly about how to work. We have like similar features, but you have to run a different SQL. So one of these is analyze, explain analyze, which is in version 8.0. So what is this? This is extension of explain statement. And explain statement by default, it doesn't execute anything. It's just estimates how optimizer will optimize the query. And in case sometimes it's telling lies, and sometimes you need it would be useful to actually execute the query and to find out which plan was created for the live query. In this case, MySQL uses option explains analyze and prints data in new tree format. It's available only in version 8.0. In MariaDB, similar feature available since a long time, but it's caused differences. So you can just like run analyze and put your statement here. And number of rows, it's actual read rows and actual filtered rows out of result set. Explain for the running thread also works slightly differently. For this example, I saw not very useful. I used not very useful select. I just selected like something sleep which run like for 100 seconds. And for MySQL, I use syntax explain for connections, where I took process list ID from the previous slide. It's 2, and I get result immediately. For MariaDB, I'm using similar syntax. It's ID and 3, and I'm selecting only 30 seconds. In this case, show explain for free, it took 25 seconds. So MariaDB kind of may sometimes explain should take longer than case of MariaDB, and even sometimes fail with log wait timeout. So this function works, but this function works certainly differently than in MySQL. Histograms and table independent statistics. MySQL support histograms in version 8.0. these are collected on demand. Histograms, it's statistics which stored independently from engine, and store data for, like, if you have values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have, like, for the, like, if you have, like, store colors, like, so you have, like, three rows storing red color and 1000 rows storing blue color. In case if you are using indexes, you will have cardinality which is about half of the table, like 500 for both colors, which is quite not true. And for histograms, you are storing difference between like it will just, like, you can identify that table has only 3 rows with red color and 1000 rows with blue color. It could be useful when creating plans. MariaDB supports histograms for quite long time. It also supports kind of similar to index statistics, but engine independent way. And histograms in MariaDB, they are collected and used by default, so you do not need to have, like, in MySQL you have, if you need to have histogram statistics, you need to run analyze table and run to specify statement to create these histogram statistics. In MariaDB, they are collected by default, and they are used by default. Other statistics, not histogram-based statistics, it's collected on demand, so you can you have to run analyze table, but it's used by default if it exists. Functional difference, so difference in similar functionality. JSON, first is JSON. MySQL has special data type which contains JSON kind of optimized format. It also has functions which are not available in MariaDB. MariaDB has also, like, you can also create table with JSON type, data type, but this JSON data type is mapped to long text because, like, MariaDB ran tests and found that JSON data type doesn't have performance advantages for MariaDB server. But when you specify JSON keyword in creating MariaDB table, this option is checking if JSON value is valid. It's automatically enabled. So, like, it's same as creating a table with JSON value as long text and creating check manually. And also MariaDB has functions which are not available in MySQL but available in MariaDB. But this data type thing, it's creates some issues with replication. So it's for statement based, it works fine. But for row based replication, it cannot convert from MySQL JSON, cannot just replicate from MySQL JSON type to MariaDB long text type. Because these are different types, and you need to convert, like, if you have source of MySQL, source service MySQL, you have to convert JSON data type to long text. Geometry extension is both uses SQL with geometry types of open this OGC consortium. This is both for MySQL and MariaDB. MySQL has slightly bigger number of functions, and I suggest you to check user manual in case if you use these functions. But otherwise, it has almost same functionality. Regular expression, both products support Unicode. MySQL support Unicode Science version 8.0.4. It uses ICU library and extended regex syntax. MariaDB supports Unicode Science version 10.5 and uses Perl compatible regular expression syntax. So these are like it's both are Unicode safe, but syntax of regular expression could be slightly different, maybe not slightly. So you need to check your regular expressions. And also MySQL has option keyword regex plug, which MariaDB doesn't have. Localization. Localization is character set. MySQL and MariaDB supports both similar set of character sets, but character set GB 18030 is available only MySQL. MariaDB has more collections, like 30 or 40 more collections than MySQL, but MariaDB supports not all MySQL collections. And this is why, for example, replication or importing dump from MySQL 8.0 has some adjustments, because default collection for UTF-8 MB for character set is not available in MariaDB. So you need to check your tables definitions and probably adjust character sets before migration. Diagnostics. For diagnostics, it's actually like I want to focus on two features. One is progress for alter table. In MySQL, it has this option in performance schema. And you may see like you are using invent stages current, invent like alter table. It's work completed, work estimated, and sometimes it goes above and just like some numbers when you cannot predict when actually the work finish. There are more stages than we are seeing on the slide, but when we are having example, it's probably like it's the stage which taken most of the time. For MariaDB, there are a few options to have progress of alter table. One is information schema process list is stage one. It actually has two stages, and here is progress in I believe in percents. Another option is use show process list. It has progress here. And third option is supporting clients. So this is either should be MariaDB command line client, or if you are using some program, you may add this support to your program. It's described in the MariaDB manual. Not all clients support this. And in this case, again, you will see just like this stage of how much alter takes. Another issue, MariaDB supports this progress not only for alter table, but also for number of other statements, such as load data in file. And again, please consult the manual, but since we are talking about migration and MySQL doesn't support progress for such statements, I do not have supporting slides. Another, like in MySQL Science latest versions, performance schema is main troubleshooting source. MariaDB does like ports it from MySQL, which it finds useful, and it doesn't port everything. So what is missed? First is tables regarding logs. These are actually existed in old version even in MySQL, but in 8.0 it was moved to performance schema with adding additional columns. It's data log weights and data logs. In MariaDB, they are available for storage engines which support such tables. These are InnoDB, TokuDB, and MyRox storage engines. So like it's InnoDB logs, InnoDB log weights, and same for TokuDB and same for MyRox. Variables, there is no table called global variables in MariaDB, but they are available in information schema. Same for session variables. Variables info with information of variables available in information schema system variables table. And practically MariaDB has maybe even more information on variables than MySQL here. Variables by thread is not available in MariaDB. For replication tables, they are again not available in MariaDB. And in MariaDB, use show slave status to get this information. Error summary tables which are added in version 8.0 also not available in MariaDB, and there is no equivalent. Statement histograms, they are not related to optimizer histograms, which we discussed before, but this about histograms about how frequent such statement executes or how long it takes. It's again, they are not available. It's a kind of performance statistics on SQL statements. These are not available in MariaDB. User-defined functions, they exist in MySQL.func table in the MySQL database. Log status, which contains information about binary log and LSN of InnoDB storage engine, is again, there is no such table in MariaDB, but it could be obtained by show master status and could be obtained from show InnoDB status information about LSN, though it's not such convenient when using one table. So a conclusion. So initial upgrade is straightforward. Just take data directory, unless you're using 8.0, MySQL 8.0, and just point MariaDB server to there and run MariaDB upgrade, and you are done. Feature difference are mostly easily solvable. So you just like either a little change SQL syntax, or maybe adjust your application a bit, but it's very easy. MariaDB has options which simplify migration, like you cannot replicate from MySQL source server even using global transaction identifiers, so you can safely migrate to MariaDB to explore all MariaDB advantages. Unfortunately, it would not be easy to migrate back to MySQL, so if you are considering option to migrate back, please do not migrate everything, but because MySQL is not so friendly for MariaDB specific options. This is slides about more details. It's mostly points to user manuals for MariaDB for specific topics which we discussed. These slides will be available online after the conference, so you can download, and these all are clickable link. But these are also QR codes. If you are curious now, you can just use your mobile phone that follow links using QR codes. And I put here links so you can easily like use them like reference when you are migrating, so you can quickly find out what needs to be adjusted in your application. Thank you. This information about my where you can find me online, and the slides also will be at SlideShare a few dates after the conference. Thank you.